So what's up, everyone? Welcome to NCAA Tourney, special edition that we're going to end up doing today. I'm, of course, one of your hosts of the show, Hayes, aka El Shifty. So welcome again back to another episode of 2M in Sweden, also known as We Got Next. We're just going to give initial thoughts, nothing too in depth about what all came out today with Selection Sunday for the NCAA tournament, March Madness. Shout out to Future. If you haven't heard the song, go listen to it. But there's a lot of different takeaways that we'll start with. And then on Tuesday, when Steven and I are both on the show, we'll probably break down the whole bracket for you guys and let you all know who we believe to end up being the winner. So, first things first, we're not going to start with the T. I really thought about starting this episode with the T, and then I said, I'm not going to do that to you all. I'm going to give you some insight, and then we'll kind of go backwards. So, some of the number one seeds, just to go over it. Auburn clinches the number one seed in the South region. Duke locks up the number one seed in the East region. Houston is the number one seed in the Midwest region. And then the Gators are the number one seed in the West region. That's the first thing I wanted to bring up. The second thing that I wanted to talk about from this is there are 14 teams from the SEC in the NCAA tournament. You have Florida, you have Auburn, you have Alabama, you have the University of Tennessee, which looked good today as well. You have Kentucky, you have Ole Miss, you have Texas A&M, Missouri, Arkansas. Congrats to them with Coach Cal. Oklahoma, Georgia, Texas, Vanderbilt. Just to name a few, which is kind of crazy when you just end up looking at how all of this ended up playing out for the tournament, because for all of those teams to end up being in it just from one conference, it speaks a lot of volume as to the level of talent that is there, because a lot of times some of these different conferences do not necessarily have a set. The other one's Mississippi State for anyone. I didn't say that one, I just kind of said state. But for all these teams just to be from the SEC, number one, it's strong in football, but it's now getting really strong in terms of basketball. The other part to that is some of these teams are a part of the combination. It's not many that are a part of the combination, but Texas is your big one, that they weren't in it, and now they're in it as well. Oklahoma was not the SEC. So they're another one that's over there. That's just two to name a few. And then when you have two from the same state, you have Auburn, you have Alabama, you have Texas, you have Texas A&M, you have Ole Miss, you have Mississippi State. You can't go wrong, and that's just to name some of them. I could go more in depth with that, but that's just to name a good portion of it. Just going through every single game, initial thoughts we're going to end up doing, and I'll save a little bit of the drama that I've been hearing about as well. So you have the 16th seed that's going to go up against Auburn. It's going to be Alabama State against St. Francis. A lot of people probably don't know about either of them. St. Francis is 16-17 record. Alabama State is 19-15. So that's just over there. San Diego State for the 11th seed. And they are going to be going up against Ole Miss. You have San Diego State against North Carolina. North Carolina had 22 wins on the season. San Diego State was 21-9. And then they would play Ole Miss, which would be a solid game. Honestly, UNC is not the UNC of old. I've seen that. I've said that. And they're just not really the same. Could they squeak this one out and get past San Diego State? Yeah, but we also have seen San Diego State in past years just have surprising wins. And they kind of go forward. Other one we have American against Mount St. Mary's. So both have the same record. They're both 16 seeds, and they'll play Duke. That's a rough one, getting Duke. If, and I'll bring it back up, there's a big if. That could change a lot of things with them, although I think Duke will still pull it through. The last one we have is Texas against Xavier. And Texas against Xavier, where does that one fall? Against Illinois. And Illinois is the 6th seed, but Texas and Xavier are both the 11th seed. Texas is 19-15, Xavier is 21-11. Just kind of going through. So some of the games he brought up, Alabama would be playing the winner of Alabama State against St. Francis. Louisville is going to play against Creighton. Michigan, and this is in the South region for anyone that's wondering. These first couple of games, Alabama and Louisville are both playing in Lexington. Moving it over now to the Denver portion, it is Michigan against UC San Diego. So we'll kind of see how Michigan does in that one. This is in Denver again. Then you also have Texas A&M against Yale. Congrats to Yale. I was watching that game today, and I'm super proud of, one, that program as to what they did. Super solid game overall. Congrats. We'll get into the bracket on Tuesday. I foresee Texas A&M getting the W in that one. Then you have Ole Miss against San Diego State or North Carolina, whichever one wins that one. This is in Milwaukee. Then you have Iowa State against Lipscomb, and that one's also Milwaukee. Then you have in the Cleveland side of the South region, which none of this makes sense sometimes, but you have Marquette against New Mexico, and then you have Michigan State against Bryant. Tom Izzo and the boys, I feel they're going to end up getting by in that one. You have Florida in the West region now. In the Raleigh portion, you have Florida against Norfolk State, which I'm no disrespect to the boys down south in the Virginia Beach area. I'm going with Florida in that one. I just think that they can run away with that. Then you have UConn against Oklahoma, and UConn is the 8th seed. Oklahoma is the 9th seed in that one. That's still Raleigh. Going into Seattle, you have Memphis. Big ups to them. They're playing Colorado State. And then you also have Maryland, who has to fly cross country to end up playing Grand Canyon. Maryland has a good team. I've been watching them. Maryland should end up taking that one. They have the guys end up doing it. I watched when they played Rutgers, which doesn't say much, but that is a really big game over there. The other one is going into, that looks like Wichita. We have Missouri against Drake, and then we have Texas Tech against University of North Carolina, Wilmington. And then we have the Providence one, which is Kansas against Arkansas. And so that's about two really good OG coaches that we know out there. Then you have St. John's against Omaha. So my takeaway from this, St. John's should end up winning against Omaha. That next game, Kansas against Arkansas, you would usually think that it would end up being, oh, Kansas used to be the one back in the day. But I hope St. John's, my mom went to St. John's, so I'm going to be rooting for them in that one. I can see Rick Pitino and the boys end up getting through with that one. Their tough one would probably be Texas Tech. If they can get by Texas Tech, they should be able to make it to the Elite Eight over there. But I'll save the rest of that one for Tuesday. One other note that I'll bring up now with the San Diego State against North Carolina game, I did end up finding out that the athletic director of North Carolina is also on the selection committee. Just going to leave it there because they were on the bubble before. Then going over into the East region, you have Duke against the winner of American or Mount St. Mary. I think Duke's going to take it. Only thing is, they're saying Cooper Flag is supposed to play. I don't know how that's going to go. I don't know what his ankle status is. I'm hoping by March 23rd, we do end up hearing more about that. Sorry, March 21st, which is Friday. We hear more about that. Then Mississippi State is playing against Baylor. Good game. Both teams, great season. Oregon against Liberty. I can foresee Oregon pulling that out. I haven't heard as much about Liberty, but again, that just could be me being naive and not necessarily paying attention to some of the smaller programs, especially when Liberty's in my backyard. You have Arizona. This is Seattle portion of the East region. You have Arizona against Akron, hoping the boys in Arizona can end up pulling that one out. Then you have BYU against VCU. VCU is ranked lower than they usually are in past years. I did see BYU give some tough and grit in their game that they had the other day. So I want to see if they can keep that up. VCU's just always been that team. They'll get at least a win or two in the tournament, and then that's kind of it. They have gone farther, so I don't want anyone out there to say, Hayes, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, they can end up performing. I have people out to VCU. I know that they can end up going far, but I'm saying this team might be able to squeak out that win or two, and they're their 11th seed this year. That's in the Denver region. Also, you have Wisconsin and Montana. That's in the Denver. I can probably see Wisconsin getting over on that one. Going into the Cleveland region of the East Regional, you have St. Mary's against Vanderbilt. Then you have Alabama against Robert Morris. If Alabama does everything they need to do, Alabama just has to end up beating Robert Morris. And after that, they play St. Mary's or Vandy. You should be able to get by either one of those. And then you're playing I don't think Wisconsin's going to make it that far, but you would play Wisconsin to make it to the Elite Eight. Then you have Houston's going to end up pulling through probably on their game. You have, and this is in Wichita, which is really interesting that this is Wichita and it's the Midwest, but then also you have the West and you have Wichita. So they're on 2 different days. Those are the March 20th game. No, they are on the same day. You have Missouri, Drake, Texas Tech, and University of North Carolina, Wilmington. And you also have Houston and Gonzaga all playing on the same day. But the second game is Gonzaga against Georgia. And then going into the Providence region, you have Clemson against McNeese. Shout out to the homie there, because the manager himself got himself a couple of NIL deals. Got one with Insomnia Cookies, got one, of course, with the gambling Pick'ems website, and then you also got one with B-Dubs, Buffalo Wild Wings, for those that don't know. So he's doing something. The NIL money is not just for the players. Student managers can get themselves some NIL money too. And then going to the other game, you have Purdue against High Point. Then going into the Milwaukee side of it, you have Illinois against the winner of Texas or Xavier. And then you have Kentucky, which you have to say it's not just the coach. It goes into people know what that funnel does for Kentucky. Of course, Coach Cal was there. Coach Cal left. They got a new head coach there, and they are still doing the same thing. They have a solid program, number 3 seed in the tournament, and they're going up against Troy. Kentucky should be able to get by with that one. And then looking at the final games, which is in the Lexington, Kentucky, you have UCLA and Utah State both have to fly basically cross country to end up playing their game in Lexington. And then you have Tennessee that gets to essentially be not too far away from home for theirs. Lexington is in Kentucky, but then you have Tennessee. That's a drive they probably end up doing, if anything. Or fly, because, these people can end up flying to a lot of these different destinations. And then Tennessee's going up against Wofford. So I could see Tennessee end up winning that one. I don't think that's something that I'm concerned about. Here we go. I'm trying to look up something for you guys, but those are my initial thoughts when it comes to everything in terms of the tournament. The next thing I kind of want to see is who are some of these standout players that are going to play a key role when it comes to being in the tournament. I know players from like Auburn, Maryland, those cats can end up standing up and making a name for themselves. I was watching, it's a 255-minute plane ride, 250-minute plane ride. But then they're also saying, you can do either one. You can drive it or fly it. I don't know which one they'll do. Either way, not that far for them. This is in terms of Lexington, Kentucky from Knoxville, Tennessee. But some of the players you can see standing up, like the Gators have some players that probably can raise their stock in the draft. Auburn, Alabama has some players that can raise their stock in the draft. Kentucky has it. And this is just from the SEC. And of course, Houston, year over year, they're going to have players. Duke, yes, a lot of people are already saying Cooper Flagg, he'll end up being the number 1 pick. But, this will separate him from, all right, he's the number 1 pick, then let's try and end up doing like mortgage the farm to end up moving up. Does that happen often? No, you usually stay with your number 1 pick in the NBA and you don't really move up. That happens more in the NFL. You saw it the year of like Carson Wentz. The Eagles moved up to number 2 to end up doing that. Of course, you saw it with the Chicago Bears, Carolina Panthers, with all those trades to end up moving up for Bryce Young. And that's the NBA. It doesn't happen as much in basketball, but who's to say it wouldn't ever happen? So that's kind of something else I'm looking forward to. I kind of want to see some of these players take that leap during the tournament and kind of seeing what comes about from it for them in terms of their draft stock. But then also in addition to that, what type of team becomes that surprise team. So I do want to really see how that comes about. I want to see what players pull like the Steph Curry of it, what teams are going to be that Cinderella story. All I'm going to tell you guys are all 4 number 1 seeds, Auburn, Duke, Florida, Houston, they're not all making it to the Final Four. I could see 3 of them maybe making it, but I don't think all 4 are going to make it. In the South region, that one is going to be taking place, well, their Elite 8 is going to take place in Atlanta. The West region is going to take place in San Francisco. The Midwest region is going to take place in Indianapolis. And then the East region is going to take place in Newark. Those games are going to be March 29th and March 30th. So for anyone wondering, that is going to be a Saturday and Sunday for those games. And then you have the Sweet 16 that is going to be on March 28th and March 27th. So that's going to be the Thursday and Friday. So those are the main things I wanted to cover over there. I want to know everyone's thoughts out there. We've started to get a lot more engagement, so I really want to know what you all have to say and what you all think of when it comes to the tournament. Who do you think is going to end up taking it to the Final Four? Who do you think are going to be the champions? Steve and I will give our thoughts on Tuesday, but until then, we appreciate you all. Thanks for just clocking in with us. We out.